Alright, so just as a final reinforcement, we'll finish up section 7.1. I had asked you to do the odds for homework or classwork, but for problem number 1, it says that if tangent of theta is 2, find the cotangent of theta. Well, that's a reciprocal, so 1/2 would be the answer. Problem number 2, it says if cosine of theta is 1/4, find the tangent of theta. Well, cosine I could easily convert to secant, and tangent I could easily convert to cotangent. There is a formula that says that the tangent squared of theta plus 1 is equal to the secant squared of theta. So that's the formula that I could use. So if cosine is 1/4, that means secant would be 4. So tangent squared of theta would equal 16 minus 1 is 15. So that would give us the tangent of theta would be plus or minus the square root of 15. Or, I'm sorry, that was number 3 because we're doing the odds. Problem number 5. Problem says if sine of theta is 7/10, find the cotangent of theta. Sine we could easily convert to cosecant, and we do have a formula with cosecant and cotangent. The formula says that 1 plus the cotangent of theta is equal to the cosecant squared of theta. So we would do 1 plus the cotangent, I don't know what that is equal to the cosecant. Well, if sine is 7/10, cosecant would be 10/7. So we'd get cotangent squared of theta, 100/49 minus the 1. We'd get cotangent squared of theta is equal to 51/49. And taking our square root, we get that the cotangent of theta is equal to plus or minus the square root of 51/7. So I do think that there's a little typo on the answer sheet. It should be the square root of 51/7, just like we have here. All right. For problem number 7, it says to write as an angle in quadrant 1, and we're going to be doing sine of 458. So let's figure out where that angle is. Well, this is 360, so 450 is right here. 458 puts us in quadrant 2. And our reference angle to go to the x-axis from 458 would be 82 degrees. And if all students take calculus, we would have the sine of 82 degrees. And because this angle, sine, is positive in quadrant 2, so this angle would also be positive. If it was anything other than sine or cosecant in quadrant 2, it would be negative, and you would put a negative in front. Now, one last problem in this section, problem number 9. It says, what's the tangent of negative 876? All right, so we're going clockwise. This is negative 360, negative 720, negative 810, and negative 900. So we are actually in quadrant 3. And this is negative 876. And our reference angle would be, to go from 876 to 900 is 24 degrees. And if all students take calculus, we see that tangent would be positive in this quadrant. So the tangent of negative 876 is positive. So when we go to write it in quadrant 1, we're going to leave it positive. If it was anything other than tangent or cotangent, we would have to put a negative in front because the only trig functions that are positive in quadrant 3 are tangent and cotangent. Problem number 11 says to simplify cotangent of A over the tangent of A. Well, first step for doing these was to convert to sines and cosines. Cotangent is cosine over sine. We're dividing by tangent, which is sine over cosine. So we're going to keep, change, flip. And we would get cosine squared of A over the sine squared of A, which cosine over sine is just cotangent squared. Right? Cosine over sine is cotangent. If they're both squared, it's going to be cotangent squared. And our last problem, number 13, it says we have sine squared of theta, cosine squared of theta, minus cosine squared of theta. All right, so there are a few different ways we can handle this. It's already in sines and cosines. So one thing that I'm going to do is we could factor out a cosine squared if you want. We're looking to simplify this. So if I already see we have like a cosine squared and a cosine squared, I'm going to think that I can convert sine squared to a cosine squared. Remember, sine squared plus cosine squared is 1. So sine squared by itself would be 1 minus cosine squared. So I'm going to make this substitution. Instead of sine squared, I'm going to write 1 minus cosine squared. I'm going to distribute. These terms cancel, and we're just left with negative cosine to the 4th of theta. That's one way we could do it. Another way we could do it, I mentioned factoring out a cosine squared of theta. And if you remember your formula, sine squared plus cosine squared is 1, right? So 1 minus sine squared minus 1 is equal to negative cosine squared. So instead of sine squared minus 1, I can write what it's equal to, which was negative cosine squared of theta. You get the same answer I just showed you before. It's just another way to get there by factoring. We'll be doing some more of these problems in the upcoming lessons. So thank you very much. Have a nice day.